The commands that we've learned about already, pwd, ls, cd, these are ways to help us move around our computer from the terminal. But let's learn a little bit more about creating and deleting things from the terminal. Now, one caveat here, when we start learning about removing things from the computer, it's important to know that when you delete something from your terminal, it doesn't go to the trash bin. It just gets deleted forever. So try to just be a little bit careful, make sure that you've typed things out correctly before you delete things from the terminal. But first, let's learn how to create. I'm going to cd into my development folder, assignments, and yeah, we'll just go there. I need to see what is here, so I'm going to do ls, and I only have my first assignment folder. And let's say instead of going to the Finder and creating a new folder this way, maybe what I really want to do is create it from the terminal. Easy enough. The command is mkdir. Again, programmers are lazy. This is short for make directory. The next thing I need is a space followed by the name of the directory that I want to create. Let's say my second assignment. I hit return, and you'll see over in my Finder that things will change. Okay, I made my directory from my terminal, and obviously it updated over here in my Finder. That's just another kind of evidence that really I'm working around the computer that I normally see in my Finder. Let me go ahead and move into my second assignment folder. Notice that just by creating it didn't actually move me to it. If I do ls, I'll see that I now have my two folders, and I can cd into my second assignment. I'll type my, hit tab, and notice that it only auto-completed the dash. And that's because at this point, it's sort of a decision tree. Do I want to go into my dash first assignment or my dash second assignment? I can just type S for second assignment, auto-complete the rest of it, and hit return to go in there. Now, personally, at this point, if this is my kind of assignment root folder, then what I would most likely do is actually open this folder in Visual Studio Code and start creating files and folders from there. But since that wouldn't really teach us more about the terminal, the next thing we're going to learn is the touch command. Now, frankly, I haven't looked this up. I honestly don't know why it's called touch, but the touch command allows us to just create any file. Just like mkdir allowed us to create a folder, touch allows us to create a file. So I can say touch space and maybe index.html. I'll hit return, and over here in my Finder, I can go see that I now have an index.html file here. Okay, I could do the same thing for maybe a styles.css file. And you'll notice that that also got created over here. If I do an ls command, I can see my two files sitting here inside of my second assignment folder. Okay, so we've learned a couple creation commands. Let's learn how to delete something. Let's say for whatever reason, I no longer need my styles.css file. To delete it, I can use the rm command, short for remove. I need to give the rm command the file that I want to remove, so I will then type styles.css, or rather I'll type st, or even just s, and hit tab to autocomplete it, and I'll hit return. And if I do an ls, you'll see that that is gone. And you can also see it over in my Finder here. Now again, this did not go to the trash. This trash was something different from before. So if I remove my index.html, aside from using specialized tools, it's just gone. There's really no way to recover that file. So again, be pretty careful when you're using these. You don't want to lose your stuff before you're really ready to lose it. Now, let's say that I actually want to get rid of my whole directory here, my second assignment. I'm going to go back a directory, so I need to do cd space ... in order to move back to my assignments directory. And let's see what happens when I use the remove command to try to get rid of my second assignment. I get an error, and it says my second assignment is a directory. Now there's a slight modification I need to make to my rm command in order to delete a directory, and that is to use the -r flag. The -r stands for recursive, which just means delete the directory and everything inside of it. Now we know that there's nothing inside of it, but just remember that this is the way you need to type it in order to remove a directory. rm-r followed by the name of the directory, so my second assignment. I hit return and do an ls, and that is also gone without ever having gone to the trash or anything. The last command that we'll learn about is how to move things and how to rename things. Let's say, for example, I decide that I don't actually want my first assignment folder to be inside of my assignments directory, but rather I want it to be kind of a sibling directory. So out here, where I have my development folder, and then two folders, my assignments and my first assignment. The way that this is named, I don't know why I would want to do that, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say that's what we want to do. I'm going to move this back so that we can do it using the terminal. And over here, I'm going to use the move command, which is also shortened to mv. Now the move command is a little bit different. It requires me to tell it which file or folder I want to move as the first, you could say, argument. So I'm going to say space and type in my first assignment. That is the thing that I want to move. But then I actually also provide another argument, which is where do I want to move it to? Now this might be a little bit tricky because I'm moving my first assignment, but I want to move it kind of back a directory. And if you think about it, really when I'm moving it back a directory, that means I'm moving it to my development directory. So there's a couple things that I could do here. And actually, let's use this as a chance to do some critical thinking. Can you think of a way that I might be able to accomplish this goal, moving my first assignment back a directory? Pause here and just think about that for a few seconds. Well, here's a hint. What would happen if I put a dot here? Try to think, what does the dot represent, and what would happen if I put a dot here as my destination folder? Well, the dot represents the current directory. So really what this command is saying is move my first assignment into the current directory. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because it wouldn't really be moving it, right? Let me hit return, and actually I didn't realize there would be a warning here, but it's telling me that this is the same thing. There's no reason to move this. It essentially didn't do anything. Okay, well, if I want to move it back a directory, I can say move my first assignment to the previous directory or the parent directory with ... If I hit return, you'll notice that the computer moved it. So now my first assignment is a sibling to assignments and a child folder of the development folder. If I do an ls, we'll see that nothing shows up, and that's because my assignments directory is now completely empty. Okay, once again, this is getting a little bit cluttered. I'm going to bump everything to the top by typing clear. Now, another thing that we could have done, and maybe you thought of this, instead of moving it back a directory, I also could have supplied an absolute path of where to put it. Let me show you what I mean. I'll put my first assignment back inside of assignments so that it's exactly how it was before. If I do an ls, I can see my first assignment folder. And instead of saying move my first assignment ... is a sort of relative way to specify where I want to send it. ... means the parent of the current directory I'm in. Alternatively, I could have said I want to move this to ~/development, which essentially is, remember, tilde is the shortcut for /users/my-user, which is vschool on this computer, /development. So this is an absolute path from the root of my computer, and this would accomplish the same goal. You can see my first assignment is here. Now, if you're like 15 levels nested in or something, that's going to be much more work than it's worth. You can just go back a directory. But either one of these would work just fine. The last thing we're going to learn is another way to use the move command to, instead of moving something from one place to another, to actually rename that thing from the terminal. Let me go back a directory, so cd ... I'm now in the development directory, and I will list out what I have here. I can see my first assignment folder, and frankly, this is a terrible name. It doesn't tell me really what the contents of this are. Especially for your assignments at vSchool, you should name this the name of the assignment that you're given. Now, at the time of recording, we have an assignment called Mario Pest Control. Let's say that's actually what I want to name this directory. I can use the move command. Again, I have to select the thing I want to rename. And as a second argument, I'm going to give it the name that I want to change it to. What the computer's going to do is it's going to check to see if this folder already exists, and if it does, it's going to move my first assignment folder into this folder. Now we already know that this folder doesn't exist, so what it will then do is it will actually change the name of my first assignment to Mario Pest Control. I hit return, you can keep an eye over in the Finder over there, and it just renamed it to something different. All the contents within that folder will remain exactly the same, but the folder name will have changed. For now, this is everything that you're going to really need to know with the terminal. If you haven't learned this already, you should be learning soon how to run JavaScript file commands using the node interpreter. You can type out node and then the name of a JavaScript file, and it will run it right here in the terminal. There's a couple caveats with that, but you should be learning about that soon if you haven't already. But for now, being able to move around your computer with the cd command, seeing the things that are there using the ls command, making directories, making new files, removing things, moving things, and changing names, all of that is stuff that you will eventually become comfortable doing right here in the terminal. This is totally personal preference, but for myself, I don't personally love moving things around or renaming things in the terminal. I think I'm still pretty partial to using the Finder, so I'll find myself just clicking and dragging things. This seems quite a bit easier to me. I also, when it comes to deleting things, would prefer to just send it to the trash, just in case I find myself needing it or accidentally deleting the wrong thing. I can always Command Z or pull it out of the trash manually. But when it comes to using a remote environment where maybe it's a Linux environment where you only have access to the terminal, you are going to have to get used to moving things around and renaming and deleting and creating all right there in the terminal. Now that's a bit down the road, so don't feel like you have to become a total master at the terminal right now. Honestly, just learning how to cd into different directories, move around your computer, and list things out, you're going to be well on your way to becoming really proficient in using the terminal to accomplish the tasks that you need to accomplish. As always, take some time right now before moving on. Open your terminal, practice some of this stuff. Now, be careful with the rm command. Make sure you're not about to delete anything you don't want to delete, especially if you're using that recursive -r flag. But you could do what I did here and just kind of create a dummy folder where you can create things and delete them and move them around and whatnot. The more you practice this now and feel comfortable with it, the easier everything from here on is going to be for you. So don't skip this step. Make sure you get some kind of practice in, even if you just open your terminal and play around for 5 minutes.